say in
You were
my yeah.
you were a late bloomer.
No, well, in terms of
It's not the first time
finding
I've heard Mike
finding the band,
and
yeah.
late bloomer putting together in the
Shut
same
up.
sentence. So,
Well,
all
no,
right.
like the game. Ha- Daft Punk was around for 30 years. I mean, they just because I know they were
Whoa.
just.
Yeah,
It's a
they
long
just
time.
celebrated. Yeah.
Yeah, and for
So
me, let's just say college years. So I was probably around for the last 10.
so you didn't get your musical pubic hairs until college.
Well, when it comes to that genre of their music, let's just say that. But dude, I mean, I've been in music. We were just talking about last night, dude. Like the level of music. I mean, like we were talking about punk and rock and all this other stuff, man. I mean, that's how you. I think that's one of the primary things as a kid is discovering who you are through music, especially at such a young age. So I think we both had that, man. So no,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say the puberty thing with music as in college.
I just had to make it slightly disgusting and weird
Yes,
and make you feel uncomfortable. I mean, that's
that's
my
that's what
goal.
that's what I think there was a while back I was like telling you, Miles, like, Miles, really? Like, come on. Like, did you have to? And like your response
Yeah.
was what are you new? Like,
Yeah, just,
are you new to the Miles program? Like, Jesus Christ, like
we roll in this circle. There's gonna be some hazing, some ritual. I'm not gonna cite you for messing up our intro song at all.
I we did pretty good. I had the language. I was like, shh, just for one moment. I
Yeah,
clicked the wrong click. Yeah, but now we're back. Yeah,
you
we're good. We're good.
clickety clack the wrong clack. All right.
Yep.
Well, let's just dive right into it. We got a busy show here
We
tonight.
do.
Obviously we'll probably run long. I can't remember when you and I talked last, or you and I talked when we first started doing the show. We always said it was gonna be like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Most this is ever gonna go, but we end up running like an hour, hour and a half.
2
2 hours.
hours.
It got crazy. It sometimes gets a little crazy. And so, I'm going to try to keep us on a schedule tonight, definitely, and try to bring it down a notch. All right, because it gets too crazy in here sometimes, and
You're gonna be a
fire alarm
regulator.
costs.
Is that what you're saying?
I am going to Warren G regulate on this
Wow.
podcast for today.
Miles as a regulator. Those
Yeah.
two words have never gone together at all.
No, I shouldn't have any type of power. I actually I ended up setting a person's car on fire when I became a crossing guard in elementary.
Shut
So
up.
yeah, it's all hardcore. Like you don't cross the crossing guard badge. And that's it. No, I'm just kidding. That's how you crossing guard in elementary just teaches you how to be a snitch. That's all it is.
That's all it is. You're absolutely
That's
right.
it.
And you're so proud of the badge and the little stripe over the
That's it.
shoulder. No, it's like number
Mm.
one narc. That's what you
I still
are.
got my badge. I have my badge. Still rock it. I still wear it at night in the in the bedroom
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason. I almost made you. I almost made you spit it out.
Yes, you
I
did.
almost got you this time.
Yes,
All
you
right,
did.
moving on. Well, let's do a little catch up here, Mike,
Yeah.
and talk about your weekend. What have you been up to?
Well, I'm not sure. I think we're both on the same page here. We are big fans of the Netflix Drive to Survive series, and
Yep,
that
yep,
just dropped last Friday.
yep.
And so my honestly, man, my weekend was just a blur. I did nothing except just binge on this show, which
Dude,
I'm a huge fan.
I watched it too. It was so good, and I normally if it's like something that I want to get watch and then get through,
Yeah,
like I don't know, like anything, right? Just I'm not gonna consume. I'm gonna consume like 6 episodes in 2 nights, right? Just because I'm
yeah.
like whatever, and I'm doing my taxes or whatever. But with this stuff, like I purposely don't go past 2 episodes a night because there's
Well,
so much to consume.
yeah.
It's so much, so in depth, so behind the scenes, and it's just the shots and the behind the scenes videos and interviews that they get are just
Hmm.
next level.
Hmm.
And I probably repeated myself in there, but yeah, I'm excited. It's a great series.
I've really enjoyed it, man. I I got into the F1 world at the it wasn't it was by coincidence. It wasn't because to Survive lured me into F1. That wasn't it at all. It
Oh,
was just coincidence that I got head on F1 fan dedicated. I'm up every other Sunday morning at 6 a.m. to watch these damn things. And
there's
coincidentally, I've been watching every season. This is season
and
4
there's
now.
definitely a resurgence of like F1 since Netflix. It's kind of like the people that were into import racing when Fast and Furious came out. Like, nah, were you pre Fast and Furious? It's almost like a timeline mark. Like, were you pre FNF or were you
It's
post FNF?
it's
And it's
true.
true. Yeah.
It is. We were
So
just talking about that too, where the U.S. Grand Prix, the only one here last season, 400,000 people were in attendance in Austin for the U.S. Grand Prix. Now let's take it back to when we both went to the inaugural Grand Prix,
all right,
2013. Yeah,
we're nerding out.
yeah,
We're
I
not
know.
nerding out.
Yeah, let's just say it quadrupled in size, and I'm not saying any
Oh,
one year
oh,
did
oh,
it, but
sorry.
the Netflix effect on F1 and or the Drive to Survive
Yeah.
effect, it's been a good response, good and bad, but
Uh,
mostly good.
well, I'm glad you liked it. And
Yeah.
they made it just for you. So I'm glad
Oh,
you enjoyed it.
thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So, yeah. And then you're tearing apart an engine. Let's make this quick. Come on.
So yeah, I mentioned on it last time. I started tearing apart this engine some more. Guess what I found, Miles? I'm pulling the engine out, pulling the engine apart, and I have to spin the crank. And I'm like, well, it'd be nice if I had a bolt to spin the crankshaft inside this engine, right? And I didn't
Uh-huh.
have one, so I said, all right, well, let me go get one. So I finally get one. And then as
Jammed it
I'm
on
putting
in
the
there.
bolt in, I'm trying to thread it in, and I'm having problems. And I look into with the flashlight, and I realize the old crank bolt is stuck inside the crankshaft. It had been
He left
snapped
you a present.
off.
Oh, well, there you
A
go.
hell
You've
of a
got,
present.
you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
maybe
a huge stick in the wheels.
you got 1.1 bolts. So you're looking at this all wrong. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm going to be spending this next week tearing down the engine a little bit more and then taking it to a machine shop where they're going to have to work some magic. The jury's still out whether this engine or this crankshaft is going to be salvageable. So I will keep you
It's
informed. But
I can't wait.
man, at this point, I'm
Yeah.
doing this.
Well, worst case, we'll find you another crank shaft and we'll figure it all out. So I
Yeah,
my
yeah. How
kudos,
about
my
you,
best
man?
to you.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, why are you worried about
Oh,
what I'm doing in
yeah.
my life? Not much. I don't think I got too much going on. I'm just working on people's cars, fixing stuff in my
Mhm.
garage.
I saw you
I don't know.
tore that Datsun pickup, that truck that you bought. You
I'm
cut the
making a
top off of
trailer.
it.
I'm
You're making a
making a
trailer.
I'm
That's
making a
yes,
trailer out of the back ass of it. So, and I refuse to spend any money. So I'm completely going junkyard about it. So
yes.
we'll see how cool it gets. But like I said, that's going to be my new little hauler around for, it's tools
That,
and tires and stuff when
that's
you go
gonna
to
be
the track
fun.
events. So I was like, all right, why
Yes,
not? Great. So
that's gonna be really
that's
really
all I'm
fun.
doing right now. Let's dive into a lot. But before we do that, we do have to do some crowd work. Let's
Ha!
see here.
Who do we got out there? Of course, we are live on social media through the Facebook channel, and we can see all the comments that are coming in throughout the show, and we'll be happy to share them with you. Actually, we just spoke with them not too long ago. Jonathan Wheeler saying, "Hey, hey, what's up, dude? Hope you're doing all right."
He's just trying to cloud this episode because the entire episode last time was about Mr. Wheeler. We love you, man. Glad you could be with
Thanks
us
for
here
being here,
tonight.
man.
Ion, as always, our faithful IT guy
Of
when we can't
course.
figure out what we're doing.
Yep.
So he fixes everything for us. I'm sure we've got some other people that'll be chiming in here in the next few
620.
minutes. But
Yeah.
yeah, let's move on here.
Go
Thanks
for it.
again, guys, for being with us tonight.
Yep.
I want to obviously just do our compile as well. We start off here. I want to give a salute to those in the family who we wish good health, and for those who we have lost, may we be reminded of them often.
There we
So,
go, man. Thank
gotcha.
Kanpai, everybody. If you've got
Man, I
something,
stumbled his
join
eye.
us. Join us. Mhm.
All right, let's go straight into news tonight, Mike. I think you got the first article for the evening, right?
I do. It, it,
Eh, oh,
it- it's
ooh,
it's crazy. Well, it's not crazy. I'm torn,
you're
let
gonna
me go
get
ahead.
angry.
Let me
You
just
look
say
like
it.
you're gonna
Yes,
get
I
angry.
am. I'm just gonna say it in the beginning here. This is not a Nissan. However, I'm going to tell you why it is Nissan related, and I'll go ahead and share my screen on this. I am referring to
No,
the.
just
Let me
don't
see
steal my thunder.
here. Hold on, hold on.
No,
That you? No, sorry.
yeah, that's me.
There we go. All right. I am wanting to talk about an article that just came out here in the last 2 weeks here regarding a
Right?
Toyota 2000 GT.
Okay.
Not just any 2000 GT. This was a one of three Toyota cars that were owned by Carroll Shelby and his racing efforts. And little known fact, Carroll Shelby raced for 1 year 2000 GT Toyotas in the SCCA C Group class. Now, this particular car just went to auction, and it literally is the first Japanese classic to break the $2 million mark at auction, which is a
Damn.
huge milestone for Japanese cars as a whole. But let me tell you what, and this is where I'm going to get angry. Let
Okay,
me.
go on.
I don't understand. Well, I understand it because it's the car that it is. Fine, just based on it being a rare car in general. But the fact that it's a Shelby car, I love Shelby. Shelby is one of the first icons as a kid that I knew, that I got to know and love, and that's what makes me torn about this. But when it comes to Shelby and Toyota, this car didn't. It competed for 1 year. It received
Oh,
fourth place in points for that season. It was completely obliterated by Peter Brock and his BRE team. And I'm like, if this car is making it for over $2 million, I want to see some BRE cars. Based on the motorsport merit alone, these BRE cars, and Datsun in particular, need to get some love when it comes to these auctions, man. Particularly these
I would
heritage
say.
cars.
So I see where you're going with this.
Yes.
I was like, Mike's lost his mind. He's leading with a Toyota article, and I was like, but what he's doing is he's slinging mud. I see what's going down with Mike D tonight. So
Yeah.
you're complaining that this car is worth too much money, and you think that there's some other cars that actually truly did have a little more championship lineage,
Yes.
namely the BRE, Sharp,
Yes.
all his cars. So what you're saying is we need to raise the ceiling value of those cars and make Adam Carolla even richer. Give me
Yes, yes.
that.
Now, let me just say this too, and honestly, this is a little known fact. Up until anybody who listens or watches the Japanese nostalgic car site, it's not very well known that Shelby got in. This is actually a huge story, by the way. And by the way, let me go ahead and give a reference to this. I have the DVD. It was available on Netflix, not any longer, but there was a documentary called The Carroll Shelby Story, Shelby American. I got it here because I'm old school. I got the DVD. But also,
Go
if
on.
you look onto the Peter Brock website, I'm going to bring this up right here. It tells you this is Peter Brock's personal racing site. This is bre2.net, telling you the exact story of what happened between Shelby and Brock at this time. And a little bit of a history lesson. Toyota made a deal with Brock first. And this is right at the same time that Shelby was he had already made a huge name for himself with the Mustangs and with Ford. And when it came to racing with Shelby, Toyota did a complete 180 at the last minute and gave the contract, took it away from Brock, and gave it to Shelby, thinking that that was the move to make. Now, as a response, Brock goes and makes connections with Datsun, and it's totally here. It's on the website. You can look into it into detail. But as a result, Brock goes in and gets a few Fairlady Roadsters. This is the 1968 season, and obliterates the Shelby team. So much so, embarrasses Shelby so much that he doesn't even compete in a Toyota ever again after that moment. And I think that is a huge accomplishment. Now, it's no secret either. Peter Brock was a former employee of Carroll Shelby, Shelby American, and that's a lot of where his oh my god, his folklore, the aura that is Peter Brock. He's been in so many things. But the fact that he went up against his boss after the whole Ford thing and kicked his ass, he kicked his boss's ass. I'm like, what's cooler than that? You know what I mean? And so, again, based on this, I'm going to wrap it up here, though. But based on this, I'm thinking on the motorsport merit alone, whenever that time comes when you see some BRE heritage cars go up to auction. I wanted to see not only I wanted to see I want to see them kick Shelby's ass as again, but on the auction block.
So you and I had a chance to meet Peter Brock here recently at I think the most recent convention, and
Yes.
you and I we're fans of his. I had him sign some design sketches that I've held on to for years
Yeah.
of some stuff that he drove, and we were comparing notes. And you had a book, and this is
Oh.
actually pretty hilarious. You had a book. And it was I'll let you finish the story here,
Well,
but
it
go
was
ahead and
actually
tell what
it
the book
wasn't
was.
mine. It was with our buddy Ion. It was Ion's book. He gets signed. It was Shelby American documentary book. And Ion, if you're on there too, you can feel free to say a few things. But he asks Peter Brock to sign at a Nissan convention. He asks Peter Brock to sign a Shelby book, and it's based on the biography of Carroll Shelby. And of course, Brock's got some mention in it. Let's say,
Yeah.
but as part of the signature, Brock says, "It's all lies." Peter Brock. That's in the book. It's so priceless. Like I was
But he
right there
wrote it.
with
He
Ion.
signed it. He
Yes.
goes, "It was all lies, Peter
It's
Brock,"
all lies.
and that was
Don't believe
hilarious.
a thing he says.
Peter Brock's he's a pretty interesting character, like, and actually a pretty funny guy. Like, but I mean,
Yeah.
knowledgeable engineer at his heart, race car driver. I mean,
Well, again,
it's hard to get better than that. So
it's actually true, and again, mentioning it earlier, he had been involved in so much, not just Datsun, not just Shelby and Ford and Mustang, Le Mans, for God's sake. Uh, he was involved with GM. I mean, the '63 Corvette, the split window C3 Corvette, that is his creation. He had connections working with Harley Earl, one of the most prolific designers for GM at that time, having these influences. I think he was a teenager working at GM. I mean, and so from the very get go, this guy has been so involved in motorsport and with cars, and it's really an amazing story. I love reading about it, just like here on his website, which actually segues into what I wanted to mention, Miles. Peter Brock was just inducted into the Motorsports Hall of Fame within the
as
last
he
2 weeks
should have been,
here, as he should have been,
as he
absolutely.
should
And
have
so
been.
this was what I wanted to continue as well. So we'll leave these links into the show notes if you want to watch his acceptance speech. And it was a decent acceptance speech. I want to say that, obviously a few minutes. I've got it here running in the background just for a few moments, but this was in Florida, where the Motorsports Hall of Fame is located. Brock just turned 85 not too long ago. So, I mean, a career, man. You're talking easily 60, 65 years, more than that even, of a career in motorsports, and a successful one, a very successful one at that. So I definitely wanted to spend my portion of the show saying, just congrats to Peter Brock. He well deserved. Being around him is obviously a treasure. Being able to be around him again. We were with him at ZCon this last year, and just keep on doing it, man. We love to see him again.
Well, very cool, Mike. Good find too, as well. Yeah, and
That's my
again, for
opinion, buddy.
anybody who
That's
wants
my
to check those
article.
things
Yes,
out,
yes.
for anybody who want to check those out, we definitely have those on the website. You can look at those. I did want to go into some comments here real quick. Ion said that 2000 GT that was Scooter Patrick and Dave Jordan's. They drove that car. So yeah, great. I'm glad it's Toyota knowledge, but for
Yeah,
you
yeah,
knowing
yeah.
information. I'm just kidding, Ion. But let's see here. Moving on down the line. Mr. Papa Giorgio, John Papa Sergio, he goes, I have a Shelby Can-Am bodied by Peter Brock. That's pretty, of
Wow.
course, I don't doubt it. Yeah, I mean his garage is pretty legendary, and we need to run by there one of these days when we're doing one of our world tours.
Very
So
cool.
we need to
Yeah.
definitely
Nissan Nerd World Tour.
yeah, we need to
Come,
just
come,
do that one of those days.
coming to a bathroom stall near you where like we got the road trip runs. We're just like, no, we're not even
Yeah.
here. We just need to use the restroom. This is
We're coming at you live from the Shady Oaks gas station. All right, moving on down the line.
Yes,
So
Miles.
next what we got going on is I
You
wanted to
have an
talk about
article.
I do have an article. So This has kind of been all over the place because I guess a lot of people got really upset by it. And then, Mike, I'll let you bring it up here. But
Yes.
so this was actually came out on um, a few places, but Japanese Nostalgia Car did a really good article where they actually had found two Nissan concepts.
Mm.
This actually turns out to be three Nissan concepts that were actually crushed at a scrapyard. Articles actually by
Ah,
Nostalgic Car by Pinsu, who's an avid Nissan nerd just like the rest of us.
yes, he is.
So these cars actually made their way into this scrapyard and then have been there for some time. The silver minivan is actually the Nissan Quest concept that
Mm.
ultimately ended up here. It's kind of stripped down. Me and Mike
I
were
y-
noticing the pointing of attention on the brakes, and I was like,
yes,
damn, some
dude.
six
You got
spots,
some,
and I'm just
yeah,
like,
some two-piece rotors on a Quest, man. Like that's pretty cool to see. And then it's so sad that it's obviously no wheels in the dirt, just forgotten.
yeah, and
Oh,
got
so
ripped off,
sad.
but it definitely has all the cue of like the Murano and that design period era. The smaller mirrors with the cameras kind of built in it. So there's some cool
Yeah.
stuff that was in these cars when they ripped it all up. Next car that is riding side next to this is called the Bavel. The Bavel was I think it was coined as the car that was going to that was made for empty nesters that
Hmm.
wanted to be active. It was basically meant to rival the Rav4, if you will. So
For
this was going to be Nissan's answer to that. It did come out. It actually got a lot of publicity for a really long time. Unfortunately, this is where it is. I did want to
the.
show you some pictures of it, Mike, before I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to share the some pictures of the Ville. It was actually a pretty cool concept,
Yeah.
and I just
What?
wanted to kind of share it a little bit, and just some of the little aspects of things that it had that not a lot of people knew about, and I'll kind of
Mm-hmm.
run into it.
While you're doing that, Miles, I was thinking about what made me laugh right now was you mentioned the idea of that a van was had the mind of wanting to have something for the elderly who wanted to get out. I was like, what kind of full contact experiences were they planning on doing? It's just like, man, I want to know. Is this
Well, I think it was kind of like you're basically a cross between like a van that you could take off roading, and I could kind of see that with some of
yeah,
this. It was definitely interesting. Concept. It's rare that concept ideas make it fully to production, but I mean,
yeah,
some of the things that kind of came out here were pretty awesome. I mean, look at it. You had
yeah,
your heads up displays back then. Some of
yeah,
the dial designs in the center that were you also saw in BMWs at the time. I mean, they were one of the
yeah.
first people to kind of start doing that for the ride suspension and adjustability. I dig the seat. I know it probably was a nightmare to sit on, and for the hemorrhoid friends out there, it was definitely not an interesting seat for anybody out there. But I think it actually had a swivel option, from what I remember. But here you go, man. Lay down
A lot of
seats.
these lay down seats,
I'm thinking surfboards, and there you go. I mean, kayak stuff. They have like a little whatever the hell is going
I
on
was
in there.
thinking knitting machines and other type of accessories.
You
I'm just.
and you wonder why, you didn't peak until college. And this is the
Nah,
reason
no, no.
why. But
Now, what there's got to, and obviously it was sad to see these prototypes in a salvage yard. It means being scrapped.
yeah.
I mean, I understand not everyone makes it to. Not every concept lives a full life. There's something, but there's got to be a better way. I mean, well, granted, I see it.
Well,
It's
I
got
mean,
liability issues
eventually,
because these
eventually these
concepts
cars
aren't
got to go
safe
somewhere. I mean,
per se.
these cars take up garage space. It's next to damn near impossible to maintain them because
Yeah,
everything is custom one off. A lot of times when you have concepts, for those that have never seen a concept like underneath the hood, a lot of
yeah.
them don't have engines. A lot of them are
Oh,
just fiberglass bodies. Never nothing's
well,
ever hammered out with metal. That type of scenario. I mean, it's all clay laid over fiberglass,
yep.
and then and that's pretty much what we're looking at. So
And it's funny you mentioned that too. You remember when we were talking with somebody about that? Remember that orange 350Z concept that made its way around like an O2? 01 when Nissan was trying to tease the new 350Z, that concept car. There was we spoke with somebody about it, and we asked them, yeah, what's underneath it? What's missing? What how did you make this? And he goes, yeah, the chassis is a 240SX, and if you look at the seat is an office chair that just looks like a racing seat. And I was like, Jesus Christ. I mean, and again, it's just all about that what would you call it? Like a 10-foot viewpoint. It looks good from
Yeah.
10 feet away, or 5 feet away. Again, purely as a concept. It's a proof of concept just to get some
Yeah.
reaction, about what if this is actually worth going after.
I agree 100%. Hey, Mike, give me one more share before I let everybody kind of go on the article. But
Sure.
yeah, so the Quest obviously was there, the bevel. There was another car that was in there called the NCS Concept. I'm not even going to show it
Mm.
to you because, quite honestly, it was one of the more uglier cars that ever made it. But there's the Quest on top. There's some car in the middle. I have no idea what that is.
Mm.
And then the car on the bottom is a green. That's called the NCS Concept. So it was actually a
Wow.
total of 3 cars that ended up finishing their life off in the scrapyard. But I'm always curious, like, okay, so
Mm.
you've got a prototype that's sitting in a junkyard. How do you get your hands on it? Will they sell it to you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What can you take off of it? I mean, you got to be able to. I mean, an envelope full of 20s. I mean,
Yeah.
I would want at
Yeah.
least some
Imagine just
second
being
piston calibers. Steering wheel?
imagine, yeah,
Come
something
on.
shift knob, something.
Uh,
I imagine being an employee at a salvage yard, and every day is just crap sometimes, and you're just, and all of a sudden, boom, out of the corner, you just see these concepts, and it just, yeah, what kind of schemes go into the minds of salvage yard employees, man, to kind of get these things out the back door, and and that a lot of these things that happen, there are a lot of cars. Again, we were talking about auctions earlier. A lot of these cars that
yep.
make into auction today were supposed to be scrapped 40, 50 years ago.
Imagine how pissed they are when they find out that kind of stuff. Because for a long
Yeah.
time, and I'm going to talk about the Nissan dollar sales. So Nissan had these cars that they were selling for like $1. They could never be titled, and they could basically be turned into race cars or just demo model cars, like show cars. And I don't know all the details for it, but I always was intrigued by that idea, and I always wanted to know all the logistics and how you made that happen. Could it ever be owned? Could
Yeah.
it ever be titled? That kind of thing. But what's crazy is those cars kind of get forgotten about for 10, 15, 20 years. And then they pop up and they're selling at like whatever the crazy auctions are
Yeah.
in Arizona. And then they're going for like $400,000. And you got to be somebody at the factory, whoever it is, has got, or the manufacturer has got to be just, what the, like for real, for real.
Right, like,
Why did we, I thought we crushed this piece first off. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
and it raises a point. Does a Nissan employee need to be on site to visibly see these things get crushed? Like, that's a lot of moves to make to have to verify something. But Jesus,
I mean,
like,
yeah, I mean, there's that whole, they have development in some of this stuff sometimes, and they
yeah,
need to crush that stuff. And for proprietary protection, I would assume I can't see a lot of that being like that, but these companies have to protect themselves and that kind of stuff. So yeah, interesting. If anybody has any insight on that, or has a hand in behind the scenes on what it takes to for those cars to legally become in the hands of nerds and dorks like ourselves, let us know. So,
yeah.
but
I agree, man.
anyway,
Let's
moving on down the line, we got more to talk about.
Yes, we do.
Now, we're going to talk about the new Z because we seem to always talk about the new Z because
It's so
it's
hot
taken
right now.
6 years for it. It's so hot right now. Hansel's so hot. All right, Hansel. Anyway, moving on down the line, let's talk about some new. You also had
Yeah.
some news about some other
w-
stuff happening, right?
Well,
Crushing.
speaking of Z's, and speaking of getting crushed, some of the latest news to come down within the last couple of
Ooh,
weeks is that, yes, the Nissan Z prototypes, some of them will be getting crushed. Once this whole promotion and campaign is over with. Now, I'm pretty sure some have been crushed already. Some
liability.
will.
That's what it is. All right.
Yeah, liability for sure. They're saying definitely, like how we're saying earlier, the safety aspect of some of these cars. These are pre-production cars
Yeah.
that cannot be completely validated as safe or roadworthy. So for that reason, these things have to get scrapped. And so, yeah, that is some of the news regarding the Z Watch.
Uh-oh.
Second article I have is let's get into it. Now, this is Japan only. However, McDonald's Happy Meals come with a Nissan Fairlady Z toy in Japan. Here is a sample of a picture of one of the many different models of cars, but the Z is one of them being included as part of Happy Meals in Japan. This isn't the first time Nissan's done this. You know, about 6 months ago, we talked about the same thing happening when McDonald's had done it with a gold GTR, and I believe
Yep.
also a 370Z. I think there's multiple Nissans, but this time, again, as you can see here, this is actually going to be a Happy Meal item in Japan. I know if you haven't already, Miles, I'm sure I'm calling up my Japanese buddies trying to see if they can. I'll pay the $5 for the
We'll
Happy
buy for the
Meal.
Happy Meal.
Yeah, free meal on us. You just get us a few toys, man.
Whatever 4 billion yen it is equivalency.
and and I gotta say though, I really wish the U.S. had just as strong of a favoritism with model cars as Japan does. Model cars in Japan, at least from my experience, having been there and seeing it, there's something about model cars that just everybody goes nuts over, and I really like
Toys,
seeing
man.
that. Now,
Toys and what do they call them? Avatars, like little everything out there. Like you can't. Everywhere you go, there's a little toy associated to like something that you do. Like riding the train, there's a toy. I mean,
hmm
taking a pee in the urinals, there's a toy, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, do I have to have a toy for every single
yeah,
thing? But it's cool, I dig it,
yeah.
but I'm just like, I'm into model cars, but yeah, but sorry,
Well,
got on my high horse. My
well,
apologies. So
no, I got you. We now granted we do have a car model culture. I mean most popular. The first thing I can think of is Hot Wheels. I mean everybody collects Hot Wheels, trades Hot Wheels. There's a Hot Wheels hustle that if you go to eBay, for example, you can find it. It does exist. But I mean, again, it's McDonald's. It's such mainstream. And the fact that Nissan was able, they're making these connections so that kids all over the world, talking about hooking them while they're young, maybe American car makers should do this more often in the States, because if you really get them into sports cars, especially in Happy Meals like this, that's really going to hopefully plant the seed into a lot of kids to want to be more of an enthusiast as they get older. And
you
that kind of
sound like the guy.
revitalizes our whole
You,
car culture, Yeah.
you sound like there's a guy in the 50s that'd be like, look, we can give kids cigarettes in elementary
Yeah.
schools, and by the time they're adults, they're hooked for life. And that's just how it is. And that's how you. That's like in your mind, you're like greatest idea
Well,
ever. But the
dude,
reality is, it's like these kids are going to be, if they're into sports cars, they're going to be too broke to make any real bad decisions in their lives. They can't
yeah.
get married because they're too damn broke. They can't do drugs and get a good drug addiction because guess what? They're too broke. They can't start a band because they
Yeah.
spend all their money on. They
We've
they can't fit their instruments in these
Dude,
cars. Come on.
project cars have so many benefits, honestly, right? Yeah, there's no money
Here
for
we go.
drugs. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Tell me
Yeah,
more.
that ain't happening. You've got an performance mod list to feed, with your money,
Oh
for
yeah,
God's sakes.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, remember we were talking about the cigarette ads. You remember candy cigarettes, right? Remember as a kid, you get them from the
Oh,
ice
I
cream
remember
man, and
those. Oh yeah.
I'm like, it's kind of no, Z cars in general, they are not they are not harmful for your health. I think it would actually bring really good enthusiasm, man, especially for sports cars. So yeah, I don't know. It's got to have been tried before. If not, somebody try it again. For God's sake, listen, if you're listening, bring that same model to use. Yes. What are you smoking?
Yeah. Mike's running the campaign on hooking the kiddies in
Yeah.
kindergarten, pre-K.
You
Next year we're going pre-K. We're
you
doing
really
pre-K. They're tipping.
you really want to monetize the enthusiasm by yeah. The key word is monetize. Yeah.
there's an evil that exists there that we probably shouldn't talk about any further. Moving on down the line.
They
So from here, we got to go through news because we've got a lot to kind of cover. We've done the Z Watch,
yes.
and we're kind of at that point. So let's go through news in 60 seconds. Let's finish up the news, and then we have some other stuff that we got to kind of talk about tonight. So go
Yes, we
ahead.
do. Yes, we do. Again, we're gonna breeze through this respectfully as much as we can here. This is news in 60 seconds. Let's get this up. Where are we
Hit it.
at?
Hit it.
Ah,
Do it.
ready? Boom. There we
Yes.
go. This is news in 60 seconds. First up is Nissan offers support to the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. It's no secret. It's a world uh, topic right now about, again, we're not political here, Miles. I understand that. So
No.
uh, the country of Ukraine is needing of assistance, and Nissan is answering that call. They are creating a 2.5 million euro fund to support the humanitarian crisis in the Ukraine. Priority has always been safety and livelihood of people, and the Nissan Cares Fund will contribute to wider efforts to support the people of Ukraine. Through the fund, Nissan will donate 1 million euros to the Red Cross and to other nonprofit organizations supporting ongoing emergency activities, providing life-saving assistance and essential supplies to families and children at this time. So props to Nissan for making a stand and doing this. Definitely newsworthy. Wanting to make it here part of today's show. Next one I have here, not as humanitarian, but we'll go ahead and say it anyway. Sadly, another country has killed the Nissan GTR. The GTR is being, let's just say it, I mean, for lack of a better word, phased out of certain countries for various reasons. This article is referring to the country of Holland, who is no longer bringing the GTR, offering it in its country. This is due to emission regulations and not being stringent enough to satisfy the country's regulations on emissions. Now you can currently just to let you know you can still find the GTR in Belgium and in Germany, for example, but most other European countries are no longer offering the GTR right now. Again, for these reasons, either emissions related, also price. The Nissan High Performance Center confirmed that European sales will end fairly soon. So if you are in Europe and you are listening to us, the suggestion here is to grab one while you still can, especially if you want a new one.
Yep.
Again,
Stop buying
prices are
those wooden
very high.
shoes. Stop buying the wooden shoes. Save your money and
Yeah,
start looking at getting yourself a GTR because I feel like the pricing on those is going to go up here
yeah.
pretty soon. So no
Well,
more smoking a pancake and got a GTR.
pipe and a crepe. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Bong and a
Uh,
blitz.
Bong and a
Just
Blitz. Now this isn't. I was thinking about this. They were talking about price, and so yeah, I was looking it up, and I was like, because I remember when the GTR first came out, its price point was like a revolutionary like low. I mean, I think for us it was right at 100,000, and to get that type of supercar performance for 100,000 was unheard of, especially in 2008, 2009. And so I was kind of figuring out how high has it gone in the last, what is that, 12, 14 years. And so currently in the US, 113,000 is for a base model GTR. Hasn't been much of a change price wise, which is admirable. I mean, especially when you think about inflation, in this economy. But in Europe, though, much higher. I think the base model that they mentioned in this article, starting at 200,000 for a base model GTR. So that's just an example of why price is one of the factors to sales being reduced and eventually ultimately ending the GTR in Europe. Now this isn't the first time, of course. Not too long ago we did report that that in Australia the GTR is leaving due to crash test regulations and not being able to meet Australia's crash test regulations. So it's just small pieces here and there, man. I know hopefully the GTR will be next on the list of cars to to get a facelift and to get a new generation. So hopefully, the changes that they do make will solve some of these problems, so that you can see them in Europe again and see them in Australia again. So that is my hope as well. So. For me, that's news in 60 seconds, though. Miles, I think you had one. It's not very often you get to pull a news in 60 seconds. So I wanted to give
Well,
you the opportunity. Yeah.
yeah, and I wanted to take a few moments to talk about. Unfortunately, a legend in the industry passing away here as of recently. Not a lot of people knew about this stateside, but I did want to kind of bring it up. So this actually just came out in Nostalgic Car here this morning. But for those that don't know, Konomitsu Takahashi uh, unfortunately passed away. He was a drifting legend, also a motorcycle. Legend as well. But for those that don't know, he was pretty much the grandfather of drifting, from what it's told, and he was a legend amongst the Hakasuka GTR world. But you know,
Yes.
there's some great photos in here. We will also post this up here. But for those that don't know, I mean, this is probably some of the more notable vehicles that he raced and won in. um, you know, these R series vehicles that back when he was racing for the Prince, during the
Yes.
Prince time period for Nissan, the Skyline
That's.
2000 GTs. I mean,
Mhm.
the R380, which is this is the R380, the first gen, as it's known now. I actually saw this car when Nissan did a small museum piece at the Peterson Museum
Mm.
in LA. So I actually I made my way down there on purpose, was specifically just to see this car. It had just opened like that day, so I had an opportunity to go check it out. It's pretty awesome. So
Wow. Well, yeah, when I did read that article, with the fact that in the article they were talking about his contributions when Nissan, this is before you mentioned Prince, and again, that's another nerd fact where Prince was a automotive manufacturer that it was essentially absorbed or merged with Nissan. I believe in the late 50s, early 60s. I might get that wrong, but it was very influential. And you mentioned the R380. That was a I think part of the some of the Prince's efforts, and specifically the Skyline. People don't know this, but the Skyline came from Prince. That was eventually renamed as a Nissan. So uh,
yeah,
this guy goes way back, and he said yes, he's also the godfather of drifting. Again,
yeah.
such a life, man, and definitely want to pay tribute to him.
Yeah, for
Um,
those that don't know, like I said, it's an unfortunate thing, but like I said, a very full life. You know, at his passing, he ended up passing away at 82. But a
mhm.
lot of years of raising hell in between that, and for him, we definitely do the salute. So, but he will be missed. If you get a chance, definitely check out the article
Mhm.
and look up some of the history on him. A lot of good racing stories. I wish we had more time to kind of talk about it, but I wanted to take a little bit of time and just recognize that. So,
Great job, man. Great mob. Next thing here, we want to transition into a motorsports segment.
but before
Uh,
that, dude,
oh,
we gotta mention some of our folks. Ion
good
actually,
idea.
he said the R380-2. Excuse me, I was
Oh,
corrected. So.
see,
And of course, Ion mentioned as well that was a stout race car by Prince. Okay, very cool.
talking
So,
about the R30, R380-2. Kind of reminds me of the new Z now too, the Z34-2. So,
oh, the version two. Maybe don't start it there. That's pretty cool stuff.
yeah, I'm telling you,
I,
man, the nomenclature is a big thing.
man, we
Yeah.
got Ion on a roll tonight. He also said the S20 motor is a detuned R380 motor. All right, calm down, slow your roll.
Woo! Check out the
Jeez.
where's the big brain on Brad?
Oh
Check it out. Yeah.
Big brain on bread.
yeah.
Yes. Props to you, Ion.
So
Yeah.
moving on down the line, we're going to talk about motorsports here. So Super
Yes.
GT, you know, we've been talking about Super GT. Everything's still kind of on hold right now. The season actually has not began. We still have got Super GT coming around in April. So the first round of Super GT will be April 16th and 17th at the Okayama International Circuit. We will obviously keep you posted as we move forward through there, and as it gets closer, we'll send you the links, the live links, and if we can get you the dubbed versions of that, we'll obviously make those available to you
Mm,
as well. But I did want to kind of mention, Mike, that there
yeah.
was some news in the way of the new Z's that are going to be competing in the 500 series. And let's see here, give me that steering wheel, and I want to show you some cool stuff.
Let's do it, man. Where
So
are
the last week, I'm obviously we've got the race that's coming down the pipeline here next month. So what's
yeah.
happening right now is a lot of shakedown and qualify. It's testing right now. So that's really what it kind of all comes down to. So Nissan and has pretty much been dominant on most of the testing days historically over the last few years, but there's something very interesting that's happening with the new Z. So this article actually came from motorsports.com. It's put out by a Jamie Klein, and I really enjoyed it because it talked about the optimism for the new upcoming Z. So and I'm going to read a little excerpt of it. So the
Okay.
Nissan Super GT driver Ronnie Quintarelli and Bertrand Baguette believe that the Z has the potential to fight at the head of the field at Okayama based on last week's preseason test at the track. And there's a quote in here that I wanted to kind of talk about, and I also wanted to cite something. While Toyota topped both days of the two-day test, Nissan came close to taking the top spot on Sunday with the number 23 Nismo Z setting the second quickest time, just 0.13 seconds behind the leading Tom's Toyota
Tenth of a
as of
second.
late.
That's not a
They're
lot.
right there. They're
Yeah.
right there. I'm
Yeah.
telling you. And for a brand new car just coming out of the works like that,
Right.
it's pretty impressive, and
You,
that gives you a really competitive fight, considering where we were the year before. We weren't quite finishing up in the higher echelons, but while Nissan has targeted a reduction in drag and increase in top speed with the new Z, four-time GT500 champion Quintarelli feels that even around a more technical layout like Okayama, the car has the ability to fight against Toyota and Honda. So they're bringing the fight. So
okay.
pretty interesting to see that how it's going to do in the upcoming year, or actually
That's
upcoming race in a couple weeks. So
yeah.
yeah,
That's very impressive. Think about it. I mean, again, this is the new Z is a car they've been testing and driving on the track here. Hasn't really seen an actual race just yet.
no,
But it's
not at all.
1.3 seconds, sorry, 0.13 seconds behind the Supra, which the Mark V Supra has been out since what, 2019? So that makes it almost 3 years of development. If this new Z just out of the chute is on the heels of a car that's had 3 years of development at the least, it's very impressive. You said April 16th and 17th. I want to watch it, man. I think this in terms
Well,
of being a Z fan and Super GT, this is a really good moment to be witness to this stuff.
yeah, and then like I said, just at the beginning of last month, Nissan announced the GT500 teams. 6 GTR Nismo GT3s are going to be fielded in the GT300 series. So remember how we talked about that? It's definitely the flip. Where the Z is going to be in the 500, the 300 is going to
Mm,
be. We're
yep.
going to see the GT3s, the GTRs. So interesting, and
Yeah.
because it was always sold as the Z was the baby brother to the GTR, and so it's kind of interesting that of what's happening with Super GT. For me, it's very historic, and that's why I've kind of been promoting it so hard, and I kind of want people to check it out because it really is something that we've never seen before, especially with Nissan. So if you get a chance, definitely check it out. We will put the links up as the opening season begins. We'll give you all the Nissan news or the Nismo news that's kind of coming down the pipeline this year.
Hmm.
So yeah, very excited to see that. And that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about for motorsports for Super GT.
Awesome, awesome, man. Great recap, man. Again, lots of potential. I'll go ahead and get into my part here, which is coverage of Formula E and the Nissan EDAMS team. Um, Honestly, just as we reported last episode, We're waiting until April 9th and 10th. That is for round 4 and round 5. Another doubleheader happening in Rome. Those are the next 2 races. Again, we are just under a month away now. I did do some digging, searching for some any new articles from the Nismo team and from the EDAMS team regarding their efforts. Nothing really has come down the pipeline since, however. So not much to report this time around. Nissan does, I believe, they are currently in 6th position. Sorry, it's not 6th or 8th. As a constructor, their 2 drivers, Sebastian Buemi and Maximilian Gunther, have their last race here, round 3, which was in Mexico. They secured 6 points for Nissan as a constructor. So it was very good, even though rounds 1 and 2 weren't as fruitful. Round 3 was looking better, and I think in total there are much more races to happen this season. So there is no reason whatsoever to count Nissan out of this thing. They have much. The potential, the opportunity is still there to see them really be one of the top constructors this year. That potential still exists. So that's my motorsports update here for the Formula E team,
3.
though. So
Well, I think that's everything that we have. I mean, there's really not much else kind of going on. There's a few other things that we wanted to talk about. I'm still looking to get some information on the Nissan Challenge that just opened up this week. Apparently, just this last weekend, the Nissan Challenge just began. I know we know some people that are taking part of that. It happens out in California for most of the tracks, from what I remember. If anybody has any insights, people that are promoting it, definitely let us know, because we would love to talk about it, love to follow it. I know our friend Charles Parks from Power Tricks sometimes competes in it. I think he has competed in the last few years, so we'll have to reach out to him, see if he wants to talk about the event, and maybe reach out to some of the other people that participate, because it's been going on for a number of years, and it sounds like it's something right up our alley. So again, I don't have any of the dates. But if anybody has any of that data, definitely let us know. But that was everything that I want to throw that little excerpt in there for the motorsports.
Good point, man. Good. You're right. That did come on my radar. Nissan Challenge. Just didn't have. I forgot to dig into it. So yeah, let's dig into it here, man. These future episodes. Let's find out
like
what
a plan.
it's got. Mm-hmm.
Now, what else do we got going on today, Mike?
So, honestly, Miles, this brings us to our segment of the show where we really have a really good interview lined up. I was trying to figure out how to bring this in, how to make this all happen. So now, I think this started as a friendship over the last year. We've been talking with this guy for over the past year, and the idea of bringing him on the show has been floated, and we finally just got the time together to really do this. Though we're finally doing it. I think it's definitely worth being here. So for those of you online, you're in for a treat. Though
we've been following Valkyrie Autosport for a number of years. We're always impressed with everything they do. I mean, they're just an amazing group, amazing company, an amazing group of racers that are just putting out some astounding vehicles.
Yeah.
And I've just always been impressed with the level of detail in their vehicles and the commitment to the effort of where they're racing out in SoCal. Primarily from what I recall, but yeah, I wanted to kind of bring them on. We reached out to Brian and said, "Hey, we love you. We'd like to have you on the show." He was nice enough to entertain us. Hopefully, we aren't taking too much of his time here this evening, but we definitely have a lot to talk about. Let's go ahead and bring on Brian Locke with Valkyrie Autosport.
All right, let's do it, man. From Northern California area, owner and operator of Valkyrie Autosport. Please welcome Brian Locke. Hey, man.
How's it going, guys?
I said SoCal, and I forgot.
I know. I cringed a little bit. I know.
I was like, he's probably. I was like, well, he kind of kicks tail in both. I'm like, all right, he has been known, so
yeah.
But, all right.
Well, thank you for all the kind words, guys.
Yeah, man, you're very welcome, man. And it was just thanks for taking time out of your day. I know what the time difference here. Well, it's about 2 hours past. You're about 7 o'clock in the evening for you now.
Yep.
Hopefully,
nobody's over 50, Mike. We don't have to talk about
no.
times
Well, I'm
and
saying, like, I mean,
weather
obviously, as an owner and operator,
and
you
how
know,
their Medicare is going. Let's just go right into racing. So
we're missing the early bird special. No, but no. What I meant is that as an owner and operator, you're a busy man. You've got a lot going on, especially during typical business hours. So, but either way, regardless, thank you for making the time to talk with us. And I got to start off though, man. We had done some talking just a little bit before, and I got to say, you are one of the most diehard race enthusiasts, race drivers that I've been able to talk to, because you did something that I've always thought about doing but I've never done. You mentioned living in a garage loft for a period of time, not only by yourself but with your significant other. Like, how do you pull that off? Like, teach me, man. like what was that about?
first off,
How did that
that's
work
an
off?
amazing sales pitch to make that happen.
Yes.
Second, the cool factor of it just at least took you up at least 5 points in most, just in a guy standard alone. So yeah.
Yeah, it was easy. It was easy for me to obviously make the decision to do it. I still don't know how I convinced her to do it, but she's just as crazy and into this stuff as I am. So yeah, we
That's the secret.
at the time we just we needed every last cent we had to invest in the first ever GTR race car build in the country at the time. So we moved into the shop, and I think the best part about that story is we thought there was an on-demand water heater, and so we put in a little shower in the bathroom. Turns out it wasn't an on-demand water heater. It was just like it was just a real small water heater, like a 2-gallon water heater. So I sold her on, oh, don't worry, it has a shower. We didn't have a shower.
Oh man!
There might have been some borrowing of showers for a while there from friends and family.
Went a little Woodstock there for a while. It's all right, man. No judgment, judge-free zone. But the cool factor has to give way to other concerns. But you worked it out. Look at you now.
It's amazing, and I think you said the ticket is finding somebody just as enthusiastic as you are and willing to, believe in this vision. So, man, you definitely found a keeper. So, congrats, man, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, man, honestly, there's so much about yourself and with Valkyrie Auto. Valkyrie Autosports. We've been trying to. I was trying to figure out where to begin, but I mean, I know you mentioned you have over 20 years of experience as a driver or just around cars in general. Like
yeah,
let's just
nearly
get
that
into
now.
the beginning. What's going on?
Yeah, nearly that now. It's thanks for making me feel old, by the way.
Oh man, sorry.
It's the big 4-0 this summer, so. Yeah, no, I've spent my entire adult life doing this. Yeah, so it started as a family hobby. My older brother Chris was the first one that went to the track. You guys were mentioning Fast and Furious, pre or post. I just want to say that I had an exhaust on my 1991 Acura Integra pre Fast and Furious. So
you were in. You were in.
That's the OG.
Yeah,
that's the stage
OG.
I had my Acura Integra. I played a lot of Gran Turismo. And then my brother invited me out to a track day that he was doing. And the minute the cars hit the track, I was just immediately hooked. Really hard to stay focused in school after that point. Which is not a good part of the story, stay in school. But but no, I was the crazy one in the family that decided to take it on as a profession. So yeah, it's been a while now, but a crazy ride, but a rewarding one.
Yeah.
How did that original sell go? You're like, hey mom, hey dad, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm pretty sure you got the whole "you're gonna shoot your eye out" type of scenario, but
I wasn't sure. Yeah, I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I was about 2.5 years into an aerospace engineering program at San Jose State.
Wow!
Even harder. They probably were just like, we are going in their minds. You know what I mean? Here they are. But
I want to say that maybe they weren't okay with it for like a day, and then when they saw how serious I was about it. they immediately loaned me, the money I needed to buy my first semi-professional race car, and so yeah, they were hugely supportive right away. But I would say that the facial expressions when, hey, mom and dad, I'm going to drop out of school and be a professional race car driver, there was some question marks.
Oh, I
Well,
bet.
hey man, that's badass. I mean, because it doesn't always happen like that, And it's like you're kind of having to make it on your own. Everything else, it's nice to know that you had that family support to make that kind of thing, make that kind of dream happen. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
critical. It was critical.
Absolutely. You mentioned, I know up till now, and we'll get into it in a minute. You've done with Valkyrie Autosport. You're into the endurance racing uh, uh, style of racing, but I mean, has it always been that style of racing? I mean, or was
What else did you
anything?
step into? What else did
What
you try?
else? Yeah, was there anything before that, or?
It was I mean, back with my the original family race team, Go To Racing, way back when. We had a 1995 Honda CRX SI, or excuse me, 89,
Wow.
with I was going to say all of 95 horsepower. And we did the 25 hours of Thunderhill together as a family when we were all brand new. I had been racing for
Wow.
like 6 months or something like that, or had my race license for 6 months. So endurance racing was immediately the passion, and it's always been the passion. I've spent a brief amount of time doing time attack,
Okay.
which it's challenging from in a different set of circumstances for the driver. You got this very small window that you got to go perform, but mainly we did that because the sponsorship availability for time attack was big for a while,
Oh.
but as soon as we could get back to endurance racing, I mean, that's where my heart lies. So
That's where it's been. Okay, that's good to know. I was wondering because honestly, that's kind of, I know what endurance racing is, let's say on paper, but I really haven't gotten into like the actual mechanics of really what puts the sport together.
Well,
The
what it
considerations,
takes to be competitive endurance is a whole nother ball of
yeah.
wax. I
And
mean, like, yeah.
go ahead, or
I was going to say, I mean, what does it take to be competitive in endurance racing and to
cons-
make it last till the end? To what do you need to bring with you to prep with you weeks in advance before you're getting to that point? How different does the car need to be set up in comparison?
well, firstly, to be successful in endurance racing, you need to take advantage of every one of your friends to come out and stay up all night, at the 25 hour and, dump fuel in a car. And no, yeah, I mean, that's, that's one of the parts of enduros that we just love, is how much of a team sport it is. A lot of times,
okay.
sprint racing and time attack racing. It's not that obviously there's not teams involved, but when it comes time for the show, it's the driver's time, and that's basically it. Where obviously endurance racing, there is so many aspects to that. You talk about how long it takes to prep for an event. The big events that we're prepping for, like the 25 hour, we're prepping for months and months and months ahead of time, because the logistics involved are just hugely complex. There are jobs that aren't so glorious, but someone, for example, has to spend all night long driving the golf cart to and from the gas pump, filling up that 55-gallon drum. And that person's got to be just as dedicated as anybody else, because if you don't have fuel at your next pit stop, big penalties. So there's
Yeah.
so many logistics to that go into it. It takes a long time to prep. And then on the car side, I mean, in the longer endurance racing, these cars are going through, probably the equivalent of 2 seasons or more of racing in a night.
Yeah.
So every I has to be dotted, every T crossed, as they say.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking because Miles and I just got back from a time attack event here at Circuit of the Americas, well, less than a month ago, and so that was kind of getting thinking about this interview. That was my benchmark. I'm like, okay, I want to compare the differences, and what I saw out there was, of course, You're right. You've got a guy with a car, kind of participates at his leisure. Sometimes, oh yeah, I do this once a year, or I do this when I feel like it. The heats were 20 to 30 minutes long. You get about four heats a day, and I mean, and the pits were typically mixed. You mentioned, and I think a key point what you're talking about with endurance racing is that it's a team effort. With time attack, yeah, it's kind of it's a mix between team effort and then actual just enthusiasts either on their own or with a buddy, kind of doing.
Watching you guys go through like your videos, and I've been watching your videos for some time now,
Mhm.
and which is why we wanted to have you on the show. But I mean, the amount of I can't even contemplate the amount of seat time that goes into it. Not to mention like the amount of just concentration that you have to kind of put into something like that. I mean, the dedication's just got to be there. I mean, it's one thing like even me, like even karting or going out and just doing like an HP DE event or something. I'm like, I'm usually destroyed by the end of the day. Like for you, I'm like, I'm assuming like your bones are powder by the end of this thing, by the end of the week. I mean, let's talk about that. Like, how do you physically prepare for something like that? What's your recovery like after something like that? Because I mean, your downtime from event to event, if you're especially if you're doing a series as well, it's reasonable, but it's not all forgiving as well either between your body and the car, right?
Yeah, you talk about how do you recover. I come back from we come back from a big race weekend, a big endurance event, um, and it's definitely like time to take a day or two off because you're so wiped. But then a lot of times people that don't quite understand, what I do, they're like, well, you just were out racing, like having a good time. Like, what do you mean you need a day off? And it's like, well, let's see, let me,
It's a
here's
whole
all the
nother
problems we
level.
had. Here's how late we were up. The stress leading up to it. Especially with especially in the last few seasons with Valkyrie, we started to race some very very expensive cars, and the budgets have gotten pretty disgusting at times. And so there's a lot of stress that goes along with that too.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, and go ahead. And I wanted to kind of talk about that. I actually wanted to just kind of lead into talking about the Valkyrie Autosports. Now, obviously you guys are getting some great notoriety and some great fame. Let's talk a little bit about the origins of Valkyrie. How did the business begin?
Well, my wife and I, we had done, let's see, transitioning from the family racing thing. I ran a shop in Scotts Valley for a while, just not too far from where I live now. That's where the original GTR Time Attack program originated. And then through that, we went to Cobb Tuning Motorsports. From that, we did AM Performance, and all these were basically owned by other people. And at the end of those programs, you wave goodbye to cars you've poured your heart into. And it's just the nature of the business. And we looked at each other and said, you know what, we want some stability. We want more control. We're going to start our own thing. And excuse me. And yeah, so we said, okay, we're gonna start our own race team. We got to invest in all the equipment, do the whole thing. Obviously, come up with a name. We didn't want to do, your last name racing because it's just way too overdone. And there's so much more. Not to be like.
You could have made a business out of Brian Luck Racing. I mean, it could have been that or Motorsport, Autosport.
Yeah.
You could have made that happen. That could have worked. But yeah, you're right. You would have fallen amongst the rest of the pins in a
the
pile of pins. Needles
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
pile of
yeah.
needles. It's like okay, all right.
yeah.
Yeah, so Valkyrie was born. And we knew we also wanted I'd spent a couple brief stints again driving professionally, and it's just so hard that game of chasing those sponsorships. I knew it was going to be really really difficult to make a consistent living doing that, especially when you don't come from a lot of means and have an ability to pay your way to a certain point to get enough resume to really start getting the calls. So we said, what we're going to do is we're going to start building cars for other people, and still get to drive, and obviously that's part of our services is driver coaching and whatnot. But I've really actually developed a almost an equal love for building the cars as driving them at this point.
That is awesome. That reminds me of, because I started thinking about that. Because yes, I mean the idea, okay, open up a shop, and then you go, oh crap, I got to make money in multiple ways as I can. So it sounds like your business revolves around the shop, which I'm assuming you're at right now. That's your shop, right?
Yep.
And then you've got the track where you said you're doing preparations for customers. So you've got a wide range of services, I guess, right? I mean, what kind of
you're doing fabrication, race car building, and trackside servicing, from what I can tell as well, right?
Yeah, we do just about every aspect of it. We can build a car from scratch. For a client that wants to just go race it on their own, we can build it from scratch, and then obviously kind of hold their hand through the process of getting their race license, getting competitive on the track. We've had some of our clients go from never driving before to winning the 25 hours at Thunderhill with that car in the background there, the 350Z.
Wow.
We're real proud of that. Clients can bring us their own car that they have, and they just they need that support of a team on the weekends, and just so they can focus on driving. Or if they want to do enduros, obviously the team is a must. But multifaceted is definitely the word.
I imagine the clientele that you're working with isn't a guy that I would find on my street block. I mean, I'm assuming the guys you're working with, I mean, these are guys that are off running businesses Monday through Friday and are just trying to get that spare time and doing something that they've always liked doing, I guess. Or
we're lucky enough to be near Silicon Valley.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I think with you guys are definitely more upscale, and everything you provide. I mean, you're really providing a top-notch service. And so when I think of what you folks do, I think like gentlemen drivers at that level. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say we're lucky enough to be next to Silicon Valley, and there's a lot of good paying jobs around here, and oftentimes people it's the two routes. You can go my route and have that flexibility, but maybe not the paycheck that goes with it, or you can go the other route and get the paycheck, and but then obviously you don't have time to build your car and build the team and all that stuff, and that's where we come in.
Gotcha. And you said you're doing this. You got the clients, you got the services, but you're also trying to fill in your own personal track time as you're doing this. I was wondering. Miles mentioned the gentleman driver thing, and maybe for those who don't know, that's where somebody who pays for their seat into like an enduro or some competition in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, how many? First of all, how many drivers do you need for a typical event? I assume you're one of them, but also, I mean, are the other spots all gentlemen drivers, or do you have a few regulars that you participate with, or?
Well, as far as how many, it depends on the length of the event. Obviously,
Okay.
the shorter enduros, 3 and 4 hours, you do with a couple of drivers. 6-8 hour enduros, somewhere in there. 2 very fit drivers, or usually 3 drivers. And then, the 24, 25 hour events, again, 4 very fit drivers, or usually 5 drivers.
4 to 5.
And and then it all comes down to how do you make the budget on the weekend? An event like the 25 hour, depending on your class. I believe the year with the number 11 350Z behind you there, that was about a $65,000 event. And that doesn't include all our sponsorship help. All
Right.
those lovely stickers on the car there, that discounted products and whatnot. So that budget's got to come from somewhere. Sometimes you'll have guys that want to pay for another pro to be in the car. to guarantee a certain level of competitiveness. Sometimes they bring their own driver coach, someone that they're used to, and they'll pay for them to be in the car. But it's happened all different kind of ways. But at the end of the day, to get these things to the racetrack, we got to make the budget somehow.
Yeah, it was wheeling and dealing, man. I imagine it's just whatever you can do to fuel. Again, not only just making the event, but just, I mean, this is why you do it. It's like, no, I want to be on that track, and I will do whatever I can to get on there. I assume that's part of the mentality. I mean, it's to just to get some track time like that.
So you've been obviously modifying these cars for a while. You've been modifying a lot of cars for a while because you've been in the game for so long. But I would just wanted to kind of ask a few questions here, and what got you here with us? I mean, ultimately, what brought you to Nissan? Why did you start competing and racing with Nissans?
We had a very brief intro to Nissans back when we were racing Grand Am. And when I say we at this point, this was back when we were racing as a family. And we were running a Subaru at the time, and we wanted to step up to the next class, and they didn't. Subaru didn't make a car for that class. So we went out and bought a used 350Z Grand Am GS race car. Unfortunately, funding reasons, we never actually even competed with the car. We only owned it for a few months. But in that short amount of time, I just got a view into the car, how it was put together. I was really, really impressed with it. Just loved it. Ever since that time, seeing them on the street and whatnot, I was always had my eye. And then when we were looking to build the Time Attack car, when we came into some sponsorship, and the particular sponsor asked, what's the newest, hottest car on the market? And it was like, well, Nissan GTR. I mean, that was the car at the time, right?
Mm-hmm,
it was you guys mentioned earlier in the intro, I believe actually original MSRP, I believe it was 84,000. I think it was, so it was well
really
under, yeah, it was well under 100 grand. So for that performance, right, it was unreal.
Yes.
So that got us racing, obviously, Nissans. That got me, again, hooked up with Nissan Motorsport and all the wonderful things they have done for us over the years.
Cool.
And we've just, we've stuck with it since then. The racer support program that Nissan Motorsports does is fantastic. The way we can, buy parts for the cars, and then, just love the product. And we've always wanted to go our own way a little bit. You don't want to just be another number out there in the field of cars of a bunch of the same make, whatever it might be. And in our area, there's not too many people carrying the flag, so we enjoy being one of the few.
That's what I was wondering. Go ahead, Ross.
So there's not a lot of other Nissans competing with you at these events. You're pretty much by yourself. Or one or two other people?
That's what I was wondering. Yeah, so it seems like, right, in terms of other Nissans, the number's pretty limited, I guess, especially GTRs, I'm sure, right? So
Yeah. No, we're there's very, very few. When we won in 2016 at the 25-hour with the 350Z, we were the first Nissan to ever stand on a podium at the 25-hour event, much less win. We actually got this little tiny blurb at the time on a Nissan global website, a global news website, and they called us a 370Z at the time, which was like kind of hilarious. The 370Z wins the 25 hours at Thunder Hill. We're like, it was a 350. But yeah. So we've kind of become the guys in California anyway, that a lot of people come to us and ask what we're doing to build these cars and how to make them survive and how to make them fast. And so there's not a big roadmap in front of us. We have to sort of, everything we've done with these cars, we've just had to learn trial and error and tears.
Break it.
Break it, right?
Break
yeah.
it, fix it. Break it, fix it. So,
yeah. I was one, and you mentioned it. And I know Miles has been changing a few of his screenshots and behind him of the multiple cars that you've had. I mean, so it sounds to me that the 350Z was maybe one of the first cars in your stable. I heard a 370, not the mistake, but I mean, you did have a 370. I think you still do. That's behind you right
That's
now.
behind. Yep, that's behind
Yeah.
back there.
I mean,
That's that one. Yep, that's that one.
okay, that one exactly. And then you mentioned the GTR though, but I mean, I figured, take us through it. I mean, what Nissans have gone through your garage over since the beginning then?
Well, we had a couple 350Zs in the very beginning that we actually had intended to build for the Spec Z class that was new at the time. And, that class unfortunately just never quite took off in California. We have a very, very strong spec racing community that had already embraced a number of other spec racing classes. So it was a really tough hill to climb for the Z. So we sort of transitioned away from that into the endurance racing with the 350Zs. Yeah, like I said, there were two originally, and then I had a client come to me. The 370Z was kind of a funny story because I had done a test day in a Porsche GT3 Cup back in 2007 or 8, something like that, a long time ago, and I was so blown away. I'd only ever driven these kind of, tuner built time attack cars where most of the attention is, put a big turbo on it, make a bunch of power, get whatever kind of suspension, street suspension type of thing that, you can get sponsored on the car and get to the racetrack. Then I drove a, $250,000, race bred machine that's been engineered for, who knows how many years. So blown away by it that I wanted to build one. I wanted to build something like it. And I had a client with a 370Z who rolled it over at a hill climb. So he was ready for, again, that's that car sitting behind me has been upside down.
Wow.
In the blackberry bushes I believe it was at Hoopa Hill Climb. But he came to me and said, what should we do with this thing? I think maybe I'm done with the hill climb things. And I said, well, I've got this cool idea of making a 370Z GT3 Cup. So that's how that car was born 6 or 7 years or so ago. And then the car behind you there, Miles, was, the dream come true to be able to build a endurance GTR. There were so many people, originally when we built our Time Attack GTR, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to build an endurance racing car. That's not where the sponsorship took us. So it was really cool a decade later to have the opportunity to build one. And we had so many people saying, oh my God, what are you doing using that car? What are you doing using that platform? It's so heavy. It's so this, no one, I'm like, guys, are you kidding me? Like, these things are bulletproof. These cars are rock solid and they have so much potential from the factory. There were a lot of, let's say, probably E46 BMWs that we raced against that year in 2018, I believe that year was, that were a lot more costly than that car there in that picture, because we spent the money on the donor chassis and then bolted on components, and there wasn't a whole lot to it. The cars again are just so capable. So when we finished very first Nissan GTR to ever compete and finish at the 25 Hours of Thunder Hill that year, we had so many people come up to us at the end of the event going, oh my God, I can't believe that thing finished. It's like, well, we knew it was going to finish the whole time. It didn't surprise us. It didn't surprise us. So
it was crazy how competitive the car was for a lot of other racing series. I mean, the car was just dominating, and then between that and SEMA, it just had such notoriety, in the show world, but then also in the true competitive world. It really did hold. It did really kind of stand on its own, and it's crazy that you recognize that so early on, that these things can really stand through the endurance aspect of it. So that's very cool, man.
Well, especially with with endurance racing, the cars, obviously the cars are a lot heavier than, let's say, a typical road race car, but they wear that weight so well, is what I always tell people. The weight balance is good. The weight is down low. Yes, they are heavy. You'll notice it on the brakes. But in endurance racing, you're not out there, pushing 10/10 the entire time. And, you mentioned, Miles, earlier, just focus on the weekends, and how exhausting it is. Well, at the end of a 2-hour stint in a race car at night, you are incredibly mentally exhausted. And so having a car that, first of all, has all-wheel drive like that one did, easy to drive and easy to extract that 0.8 level of speed out of. Yeah, maybe if everyone starts pushing 0.10, the weight of the car starts to be a problem. But when you're out there running, an enduro pace, you could drive that car for 10 hours straight and not be tired.
That's a good point, and I was going to get to that too. So you've obviously driven multiple generations of Z car, and then you get into this GTR. And I was just thinking about it. I mean, you're driving it, like you said, 0.8. I'm sure you have your moments where you are at a 10, driving the car on its limit. Yeah, the difference. I mean, not only between Z and GTR, but also all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive. I mean, what kind of difference? Any notable differences between the two that you think are pretty, worth talking about? Or
I think one reason why we, my partner and I that I built that car with, one reason we thought that this was going to be a good idea was with the all-wheel drive, because we, obviously this is a business and we're out there trying to make money, and but we're also out there to be competitive and be successful. And when you are running an arrive and drive type team where you've got drivers coming in and out of the car that maybe aren't super familiar with it, their levels of experience are definitely wide ranged in the club racing world.
okay,
A difficult to drive car obviously is not as appealing. When you get the all-wheel drive, especially in a rain event or something like that. It was a lot easier for clients to jump into that car and do well than say one of our rear-wheel drive cars.
So you did the first race prep GTR. Honestly, and a lot of people, I want to back that up here and make sure, because we kind of panned over that, and that's a thing of note that I don't think a lot of people realize. You guys really did have the first race prepped GTR in the country, pretty much in 2009. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, we it was followed shortly thereafter. We beat them to the punch by just a little. It was followed shortly thereafter by I believe it was Brass Monkey Racing built some for World Challenge way back when. But we were the first back in the forum was called it's called NAGTROC, like North American GTR Owners Club, and we I posted photos. I mean, the story is great. I mean, the original Time Attack car, this sponsor called me up, what should we do? I said, we should race a GTR. He says, okay. He lived in Idaho. He says, well, I'm going to go down to my local dealership and buy one. So he went down to his local dealership. He bought this car. It had 5 miles on it. We showed up at the dealership. We drove out there with the hauler to get it. We showed up at the dealership with a few of our crew, took a picture in front of the car, and then proceeded to drive the car from the showroom back to their service facility and just start gutting
ripping it out.
Wow.
So, I mean, this thing had 5 miles on it. It was brand new, and we're just tearing everything, tearing the carpet out. I mean, we're just going nuts. And the look on the salesman's face was their jaws were all on the floor. Like, what are you guys doing right now? And so then it was the same response we got when we posted the first pictures of the build on these forums. People were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe someone's doing this." So it was a cool thing. Yeah, we're really proud of that fact that we pioneered that.
Like $86,000. Oh my God! This is like.
So that GTR behind me actually went on. You did 24. You competed in 24 Hours of Thunder Hill in 2019. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's the background picture on our Facebook page. Actually, we were lucky enough to have some contacts in the UK that were the Nissan factory team for the GT Academy program, and they had some first generation GT3 bodywork just kicking around. we reached out to them. We bought that bodywork. We changed the car from the class that it was in that picture there, more of the limited production class, and we went bonkers with it. And we prepped it for the unlimited class, and that was for
Wow.
2019. And then I think what's so cool about that year, the car won its class. I believe it was 5th overall, and to my knowledge, so someone might correct me on this, to my knowledge, I don't believe a stock drivetrain GTR has ever won a 24-hour endurance event in the world besides ours. So it's
Wow.
we were pretty excited about that.
You wanna give up your secrets here live on this Nerd podcast of how you
What's the
made that
secret,
happen?
right? Yeah.
What's the secret? No, we'll leave it alone. So
Nah, nah.
all in the
Well,
fluids. All in the fluids. So,
well, that was actually leading to my second point or my next idea, my next thought, which was, you said you moved into the unlimited class, and I assume at that point you're no longer stock. I mean, you're thinking of every modification that you can get your hands on that would make this car faster or more competitive. And again, me comparing what I know about time attack or other events like that is that, I mean, when you see the cars that do time attack, some of them are, done with the best materials, and they're like garage queens, except for that one day throughout the year. And then you see the other ones where they're just, any means necessary. It's got some grit to it, but it's fully functional. It does everything though. But I mean, what kind of modifications are we talking about here? Were you able? Uh, did you have to do some homemade modifications as well? Or, I mean, for budget's sake, or
So
yeah.
I think one important difference between your track day car and your time attack car versus the enduro cars that we build is you can't solve a problem with power, because even if you are in the unlimited class, and there's no limit on the power you can make, you add power in an endurance format, you're now burning more fuel, you're creating more heat, you've got to stop that power at the end of the straightaway, lap after lap after lap after lap.
Ooh.
So that year, it was in the unlimited class. It only made 550 horsepower for GTRs. That's like most GTR guys don't even get out of bed for anything less than 1,000 horsepower. You know, so, it's like, oh, cool, look at this awesome GTR race car. How much power does it make? I'm like 550. Because there's so many other things that go into it. So that year, we knew again that weight was our biggest enemy
Yeah.
with the car. We knew that in 2018, I wish I had a picture of it. I've never seen a brake rotor glowing red hot as it's stationary in the pits. Not when it's on track.
Yeah.
When you see the surface material hot and glowing orange like you do in those pictures. No. This thing was
Yeah.
static in the pits, glowing bright orange, because we had a driver be a little too aggressive on the brake pedal in his stint. So, and it's a really heavy car. So that was, we knew that was something we had to address. So a lot of the work that went into it was, the power was the easy part, right? It was not hard
Yeah.
to add more power to the GTR. We put a 40-gallon fuel cell in, which took
wow.
quite a lot of work to fit that in, around everything else, obviously in the car.
Yeah.
We obviously added as much tire as we could underneath the GT3 bodywork that we had, and then everything else is just cooling. The name of the game in endurance racing is just cooling. These cars have to basically reach an equilibrium where your standard track day car, especially your time attack cars, they can only run for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And if you were to look at a data log of different temperatures, they would just be doing this. Where in endurance
A lot of heat
racing,
soak. Yeah.
it has to do this. It's got to reach that equilibrium, and it's got to be able to then do that for all night long in some cases. So it was all about upgrading the brake ducts and where could we remove weight from the car, how much fuel could we put in the car, to make sure that our pit stops were longer than our competitors and that sort of thing.
Wow.
How, and the other thing too, I mean, how are you guys improving on, I mean, the GTR obviously is aerodynamically For those that don't know, it's a pretty impressive vehicle. But you're not only having to take those same aerodynamics, and you're also trying to add in additional cooling. You're trying to, disperse heat where you need to have it go, and then you're also trying to eliminate your drag. I mean, how does that work out for you, in your, not to mention the balance, because now you're throwing in these gigantic gas tanks. I don't even want to talk about what it took to probably get your corner balancing where you needed to get it. I'm not asking you to give up your secrets for winning and for obviously what it is, but I mean, where do you start with that process off in your brain? When you got a fresh vehicle, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, being a small shop, we don't oftentimes in our builds we don't have access to CFD type data. We're not building these cars in 3D modeling and where exactly are the high pressure and low pressure areas, where's the turbulent air, where to locate the cooler. So I wish I had like a cooler, sexier answer other than just there's a lot of trial and error.
Ju-
Trial and error.
well, yeah. But I
It's
mean,
it.
that's the thing. It's like I've noticed your cars, and I've been watching all your Instagram updates and your Facebook updates, and I'm like, and you never really pointed out. You just show the grand picture of some stuff, and sometimes I see some little detail stuff, and I was like, oh, and you might change the deflection of of an exit for some of the air that you've got going on in there, and then you're exposing some section here because you don't want heat soak to happen. And I'm like, okay, and I've been meaning to nerd out with you about a lot of little details about that, but I'm always impressed by the way you kind of set up your cars, and it speaks to your experience, which is something you can't buy in this industry, and your knowledge, which is why I think you've been so successful with these models as of late. I mean, you've got now. I wanted to take a few moments and kind of talk about your successes as of late. So, I mean, and I know there's a bit of a long arm of successes you've had in winning, but I mean, let's just kind of go down the line. Obviously, you've done Thunderhill and you've competed in, but you've actually you've logged a lot of like not only wins but historic efforts that nobody else has logged as well as a business, which I think is ultimately what separates you from everybody else, which is exactly why we have you on here today. I wanted to take a few moments and talk about those type of things. So what do you think are your biggest successes? I know a lot of them, but I wanted you to kind of mention for the folks at home, like give us some of your more notable ones. I'll leave it at that.
Well, I think we've obviously touched on a few of the highlights. I think one thing that we're really 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 proud of, and I'm most proud of is we're one of the winningest teams in the history of the 25 hour. And since we did our first 25-hour event in 2015. We placed sixth that year. We had a electrical gremlin in our engine harness that kept us off the podium that year, cost us some time in the pits. Just one of the worst. I mean, if you were to ask any endurance racer, like, what's the worst type of problem, to be fighting, it's those type of come and go gremlins that just eat up time in the pits. Anyway, that was our first year. But since then, we haven't done an event where we weren't on the podium or won. Some events were we ran two cars. Again, I'm really proud of this. We have a small team with a lot of volunteers, and most teams that show up running two cars that aren't much simpler to run machines, like say a Miata or something like that. These are teams that are coming down from IMSA, or World Challenge to come sort of play with the club race guys for the weekend. So, in 2017, 18, and 19, we ran two car efforts in all of those years, and both cars were on the podium in all those years. And really, really proud of that consistency.
That's awesome.
Wow. Wow.
And
Wow.
I wanted to talk about, we're running a little over on time tonight, but I did want to kind of touch on a
No.
few more things here before we kind of got here for the night. So, first off, I want to most recently kind of talk about an exploit that just came out on your Facebook page, and I'll blow it up here. But do you recognize that right there?
gives me chills just looking at it.
I noticed you kind of playing around with this on your most recent Facebook update. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we this is one of those you got to pinch yourself moments. That car is one of one in the country. That particular car raced at Laguna Seca by an international professional team called KCMG in the Intercontinental GT Challenge. So it's been in the States once. It's never been professionally road raced by a domestic team here in the States. And we were lucky enough to go out and help a client shake it down. So that, I mean, that's a piece of history sitting right there. And, I've said it a few times to a couple of people that I've talked to about it. It's been a long time since I've been nervous climbing into a race car. I would say the last time I was that nervous was when I tested that Porsche GT3 Cup. And my dad was, I had, again, great support from my family back in the beginning. And there was a $25,000 damage deposit that my dad had to put down on that car so that I could drive it that day. And I swear I could see the silhouette of that check on the dash when I was driving the car. Anyway, I was just about as nervous climbing into this car because it's obviously a piece of history and certainly the most valuable car I've ever driven. But that thing is a work of art, and it was pretty exciting.
You got pretty close
Wow.
to some walls out there. I won't say anything, but then again, you're just driving the track and you're driving you're racing your race. So we'll leave you alone. You're just out there having some fun. But I understand. Was the owner riding shotgun with you when that was going down?
No, the owner was out watching on pit wall. I think probably certainly more nervous than I was.
He's like,
Yeah. We've just met each other, so I mean we've been in the we've been in the same world. We've known of each other. We've been in the same world for a while now, but definitely first time we've met. And so I think he was it was nice of him to trust me with the car, and I'm sure he was more nervous than I was. But that car right there. We've been building our 370Z. We call it. Lovingly call it a GT 3.5 car because it's faster than factory built GT4 cars, but not quite as fast as a piece of machinery like that behind you. And we take a lot of our cues of components that we put in the car, aerodynamics, from just looking, lurking online and looking at pictures of suspension pieces and engine bays and of these factory built cars. So we've been striving towards building our own version of one. So it was pretty special to be able to drive a legit factory built GT3 car.
That's awesome, man.
Wow.
For Valkyrie, let's see here. Do you guys have anything coming down the line as of recently? Anything you want to kind of rumor or hint at? Don't get yourself in trouble. So
I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but there's definitely some stuff that might be coming. We are hoping to do some more racing with that GT3 car. We could kind of leave it at that for now, but
sure.
if we certainly you guys will be the first to know if what is coming in the pipeline actually arrives. And then with our 370Z, we've got the Western Endurance Racing Championship events that we plan to do with that car this year. There's a 6-hour race at Utah. There's a 6.5-hour race at Laguna Seca, which is super special because with the sound restrictions at Laguna, it's 45 minutes from my house and I hardly ever get to race there. So it's really cool that NASA got a unlimited sound day to host this enduro there. So that should be a huge event.
Wow.
We got some fun enduros coming up with the 370Z, and we're looking forward to that.
That's very cool, man. Congratulations. Let's see if
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I see a new Z in your future one of these days, maybe too, as well. Huh?
Man.
So,
we're, our history of firsts, again, we're really proud of it. And we really, we're hoping that we can continue that tradition.
It's funny when people talk to when I bring up you and I'm talking about you just and you we have to name drop you guys or anything. And I always kind of mention like, oh, what is it about them? I was like, they're kind of a business of firsts. So, you just have to kind of know your history and learn everything about you guys. But, it's a no nonsense a brand, and I'm glad you guys are holding it up. And I think you guys are going to do some amazing things in the future. That's pretty cool. So, congrats.
Thank you very much.
Before we kind of let you go for the night, I did want to ask: did you want to give a shout out to any sponsors or anything like that?
Oh my God! Now you're like put me on the spot here to like.
Well, I mean, hey, you got to give the shout out for the sponsors, all the folks that have kind of gotten you to where you are, that you may want to give a little shout out to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I hope I don't get myself in trouble by forgetting anybody. If I forgot you, I wasn't prepped for this question.
No,
So,
I did not prep you at all. I like to just, I think, to get that, to get, just be spontaneous.
Oh yeah,
A lot of times you're not to be prepared, but at the same time, we like to keep you on your.
That's the
on
Miles
your heels.
signature.
So-
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, no, we've had we've had some fantastic partners. I like to call myself that jack of all trades, master of none. And, we were able to put the machines together that we do because we work with just some awesome technical partners. So we certainly, Jim Wolf Technology, for example, our motor builder forever. There's no one better in the world at building Nissan engines.
Guys are awesome.
Yeah, SPL parts, they're obviously they're huge. Every time, we've been in a bind, we're prepping for the next enduro. We need a pile of spares. They've been there for us. Their components are obviously indestructible. Stop Tech has been huge for us for years and years. Again, endurance racing eats up a lot of brakes, especially when we're breaking new ground like endurance racing a GTR. Yeah, exactly. Endurance racing a GTR takes a lot of brakes, so they were fantastic. And Nissan Motorsports, obviously, it's a shame, especially out here in California. Sometimes I mention the program and people don't even know it exists, and I'm like, are you kidding me? You track a Nissan, you don't know that you can call Nissan Motorsports and get this incredible discount on OE parts and the awesome service that comes with it, the technical knowledge that comes with it. We've had pallets of OE parts show up to prep these cars for the endurance events. That'd be really difficult without them, without their involvement as well. So those are probably some of the big ones. There's probably more that I'm missing. There's been so many over the years, but I'd say those are some key contributors.
Again, no offense to any of the sponsors that we did actually put you on the spot here tonight. So no offense. To
Yeah.
So I just I like to see people squirm a little bit. It makes me. So, there's one story that I did want to bring up before we let you go for the night. Now, this is too cool of a fact that we just had to let you slide on it, and then we'll let you kind of go for the night. Now, you have a story about you sitting next to a piece of Nissan race history, and that was pretty much what you looked at outside of your desk for a number of years. I'll let you tell everybody about it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I my first job in the motorsport industry was working for a vintage race car shop called Canapa Design here locally. They're world famous. They've got hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of vintage race cars, and I worked in the parts department there, so I got to look at a lot of cool cars. But my favorite was one of the IMSA, the glory days of the IMSA GTP class. I got to look at that car every day. It was about 20 feet from me, and Matt Brabham drove with us for in 2018, excuse me, in 2019. And, so I was telling him, I'm not sure if this was the car that your dad drove, but almost 20 years later at the other side of my career, it's, I guess, a small world in a way, and really, really cool that, I got to chat about the car with him and him telling stories of his dad and whatnot. So, for for our little team to be connected to these little pieces of history is pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, you're a Nissan man through and through, and we hope you lots of success, and we hope Nissan grants you a new Z. That'd be pretty badass, man.
Dude,
So
yeah.
for real. So if you're
Definitely.
listening,
Right.
if we could get one car, go ahead and ship that on over there. Put it on down to that man right there, and let him have it.
Okay.
So,
Definitely worthy of.
Valkyrie. So,
Oh yeah.
but very
yeah.
cool for you to join us here
Go ahead.
tonight, man. Thank you for
Yep.
dedicating a little bit, giving a little bit of your
Yep.
time in between your busy schedule of taking care of the rich and the famous in these cars, and setting up your own race cars and winning and kicking ass with what you out there racing. So.
I think part of the summary, I was thinking about how you were talking about these cars and the way you got to think about it. It's just something that came to me was like this endurance racing. This is chess, not checkers. Like there's multiple strategies happening at the same time. Like Jesus, like I mean, hats off, man. I never learned chess, so.
Well,
it was more of a rock paper scissors kind
Go
of
fish.
So
Yeah.
Go fish.
Yeah, well, my wife, crew chief extraordinaire, she's always telling me when it comes to the strategy part during the races, I come out, I've been probably taking a nap in the RV, getting ready for my next stint. And I come out and I poke my nose into what's going on our tire strategy. And she just looks at me and she's like, giving me that look like, just go back in the RV. I've got this. Let me do my thing. I think she we have like just a really fun little home video that we made of our 2016 win. And I think there's a point in that where she even calls me out in that video, going, here's the driver sticking his nose in, where it doesn't belong.
That's so cool, man. The fact that you got everybody involved, and especially your significant other like that, man. That's not that again to pull it off, man. That's you definitely.
Great,
won the lottery.
Event. Yeah. And the fact that you got a good one. So we'll leave that alone right now.
Yeah,
still listening. Kudos to you for keeping it all together, being the glue. So thank you.
Glue. I definitely wanted to promote your shop. Of course, for those who are listening, I wanted to say that, of course, ValkyrieAS.com. That's your website, right? That'll direct to details of all the services you provide, whether it's trackside or shop. You said fabrication work. I mean, anything in particular you want to detail? I mean, it seems like you've got everything.
Yeah, I mean that's it. I mean, it's like you said, there's a list on the website there, but and especially more recently, we're really trying to focus on the trackside services and support. So yeah, absolutely, ValkyrieAS.com, or these days, right? It's the Facebook page, it's the Instagram page. So check us out on our social medias, and we try to post as much content as possible. And we'll try to post more smoky burnouts. Mike, we've been talking about that,
Yeah,
we were talking. Yeah,
you got get a little more Forsberg with your life.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's what gets them. That's what you need. You need more flat bill kids coming at you. So that's what
I made a post with some Motec data at one point years back, and I thought this was the coolest post ever, like showing this data of like what we had done to the cooling of the car. It got like 1 like. So
if you would have just done that and did a fat sick burnout at the end, yeah, you would have at least 4,000 hits. And that's just
absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh man.
Again, thanks, Brian, for coming on with us tonight. We will continue to update you with everything that's happening with you guys, and continue to check out our links to your pages and all your endeavors here at the Nissan Nerd Podcast. So thanks for being with us tonight, Brian.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for what you do.
Thanks, man. We'll talk soon. We'll definitely have to have you back on again sometime if you ever want to. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'd be my pleasure.
Awesome,
Very
man. Again,
cool, man.
thanks again. Thanks again,
Enjoy
man.
the free water and the crackers in the green room. And, we'll talk. All right.
Oh
So,
man.
Mike, we have a few more things to kind of cover here tonight. We got to
Yeah,
go over events, and then we are wrapping up for the night. So, let's
we
just do a
sure
quick
are.
wrap of upcoming events here for the next few months. Mike, go ahead.
Let's go for it. All right. Events happening across the country. Again, this is obviously an outreach. For those of you listening, if there's an event happening in your area, definitely share it with us. If you go to Nissan Nerd, info at nissannerd.com, we want to hear more events and we'll be happy to share it. Just want to start off by saying that. But getting into the events that we do want to share, let's go ahead and start it off. The most recent event that's coming down the line is, of course, Z Days, happening this year at Blowing Rock, North Carolina. This is happening May 18th to the 21st. So we're about 2 months away.
Yep.
It may seem like a lot of time, but it really isn't. So, um, we're really kind of getting into that real car show season, car festival season. Z Days for a very long time has been one of the first events of every year to really kick off this season that we're talking about. So definitely want to encourage you to come check it out. Of course, you can go to zdays.com to get more information about the show, the events that are happening throughout the event. I believe that this is a 5-day, again, 18th to the 21st. This is a 5-day event. Tons of things happening, tons of cruises. I believe it's typically a car show. Of course, our buddy Brian Settle, who is the organizer for Z Days, not his first time. Obviously, Z Days is happening for what is it now? 15, 16, 7? I should know the number. It
400
is.
years.
It's 400.
It's
Yeah.
fine. It's been
Well,
going on for a hot minute. So for those that don't know,
yeah.
yeah, Z Days is a pretty legit event. You need to go out there and check that out. We've had a blast every time we've gone to Z Days. We've had nothing but fun. Brian is amazing. He puts on a great show. Again, check it out at Z Days. That's zdayz.com.
Yep.
And every state pretty much represents while they're out there. Check
Yes.
it out. Get registered here today. Check
Yep.
that out. May 18th through the 21st. Bowling Rock.
Yep. North Carolina, and that's the big thing too. Is that the reason why I mentioned this registration list? Of course, as an organizer, I mean, Miles, me and you, we both know this. Is that as you begin to prepare for an event, you really got to figure out quantities of merchandise. How many dinners do you prepare for? So really, registration, no matter what the event is, it's very helpful to organizers if you register as early as you can. So we definitely want to encourage registration. Again, zdays.com. Take a look. And yeah, and honestly, it's really cool. This is one of the only websites that kind of, I can't think of very many other websites that tell you exactly who's going and it's public information. And they register it per state. So it kind of becomes like a competition. You know what I mean? Obviously, North Carolina has a huge representation. Florida has a huge crew coming out. South Carolina team is definitely representing. Texas, so far, we're at 2. I think we can up those numbers with a pretty big state. So, I mean, you Texas folk that are listening, you really got to let's represent at Z Days for the Texas contingent, I guess you can say. So, moving on. Let's do
Next
this.
event down the list is going to be Branson Z Fest.
Yep.
That is coming up in June. That's June 1st to June 5th out of Branson, Missouri. Registration is now open. Hotel is now open. So if you haven't checked that out, that's going to be a good event this year. They are definitely pumping it up over the last year or two. Their numbers are growing, and the sheer vibe of the event is growing as well. So if you get a chance, definitely check that out. That is bransonzfest.org. Go check it out and register because registration is now open, folks.
Let's go for it. All right. Next one down the line is happening. It's the way it works out. It happens on the tail end of Branson Z Fest. However, this event is happening in New Jersey. We're talking about the 4th annual Nissan Skyline Meet and Friends. This is at the Princeton Airport in New Jersey. You can go to their website. They have definitely sign up information. The site that you can go to, it's called Northeast Nissan Skyline Meet.com. We're going to have their link in the show notes. Feel free to click on that and get some information. Spectators $20. There's a show and shine for $30. And if you want to be part of the ultimate package, a judged car show, $40 as an entry fee, and of course, kids 10 and under are free. Really nice website, well put together. I really simple and effective. I do like it so much. So, moving on to
And
the
then
next one, Miles. You want to knock this one out?
last event for our lineup on our calendar is going to be the 35th National Z Convention. This year is going to be hosting this year hosting event is going to be in Birmingham, Alabama. That's July 25th through July 30th. Again, registration is now open. Hotels open. We talk about a lot about this event as we get a little closer to it. But
Yep.
again, you can check that out at zcon.org.
Org. You get that? I hear that. I hear that.
Savage.
That
Macho
experience.
Man
Yeah.
Randy Savage.
Org.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I need to steal some sound bits from old Mr. Savage himself. So we'll see if I can start going and get some stuff.
That would be
So that's
fun.
how it goes.
Yeah.
Oh
That sounds good.
yeah. So we'll figure it out. Coming at
All
you, brother.
right.
All right, moving on. So again, we want to thank everybody for coming on. Obviously, we want to thank Brian for being with us here tonight. But we really couldn't do it without you, our community out there. We want to make sure that we remind everybody out there to like, share, and subscribe. You can
Yep.
contact us at the info@nissannerd.com. Our next episode is going to be a little delayed. Mike,
Right.
talk about it.
Yes, you have a trip out to New Mexico. You've got some property out there. I know you're getting things situated. You've got a huge garage you just installed or had
Don't be
established.
telling people my business.
Yeah.
But
It-
now, yeah, so we are going to have a gap in our next episode lineup.
Yes.
We're thinking that we're probably going to be doing this 3 weeks out,
Yeah.
and then when I come back from vacation, we will be doing another episode, and we'll try to have something spectacular and some good fun
Oh,
stories
yeah.
when we get back from that. But once I'm back from vacation, we'll definitely try to have a good show for you at that point. So for
Tons,
those that don't know, will be a slight delay before we get into April. So just to let you know.
tons
So
to share, lots to catch up on, and yeah, that is the first week of April. That's probably the next time you can look forward to the next episode. This has been a really good episode 45. We didn't mention the number this week, so yeah, we're at episode
you know,
45.
we got a lot
46
going on
coming.
today.
We did. I enjoyed it. I actually had a really good time, man.
Yeah, lots
Uh,
to cover. So but
uh,
again,
again-
I want to thank everybody for being on with us here tonight. I want to thank everybody who continues to support us out there. Again, make sure that you're being active in your local clubs, and then for the most part, just get your ass in your garage and make something cool.
Yeah.
Do your own thing, but definitely get in there and get in your garage, make something cool, and continue to support the brand. That's all I'm going to say. So.
Great words, always true, man. I'll be doing that this weekend as well. And for those again who are with us here tonight, thank you for being with us. This has been a really good episode. For anything, whatever you've got left in your drink, let's go ahead and give our final salute for the night. Let's say kanpai, woo, clink. Again, drink what you have, guys.
Oh God, it's all at the bottom.
All right.
Oh Jesus Christ! 2 hours.
No, I've enjoyed,
Oh my
dude.
God!
This is. I mean, I think three's a pattern. One's a what's the phrase?
Fatality.
Dude, 2 hours. Why are we running 2 hours these nights?
This is
You're
good.
killing
Again,
me, Holmes.
stop being a regulator, man. We gotta just. This is where you gotta get into it, man. You gotta get into the thick of it, and just this is where you nerd out. No matter how long it is. It's like we're having this really good conversation, and you're the guy who's like, "Hey, man, my mom's calling. I gotta go." Like that's like.
But no, I mean, I feel you, and I get it. What's crazy is I'm the guy that keeps the party alive. You know what I mean? And you're
Oh.
the guy that
Well, I
that
tried.
normally used to just have to go home because his mom would call him. But I mean,
Nah.
now it's flipped. You know what I mean? You know why? It's
Yeah.
that single guy life. That's what it
Oh,
is. That's
uh,
what it is.
I answer to no one except for God Himself.
Jesus
Oh,
Christ.
am I laughing or crying? I don't know what's happening here. That's
It's just, we all lie to ourselves in different ways. It's okay. So, but yeah, again, thanks guys for being on with us tonight. Go home. Yeah, get in your garage. Go do
Have a great
something.
night, guys.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Good night.
Mm,
Bye.
mm.
Go. Leave. Just go. Get out of here. Get out of here.
The feet.
Go.
Ugh. Later,
Go.
guys.
Go.